Welcome to the second Good Morning World lecture this academic year. We're very pleased to provide these opportunities for not only our students, staff, and faculty, but especially members of the community to hear a number of interesting speakers on a lot of different topics. And we're very pleased today to have one of Tiffin University's own as our speaker, someone who was here not that long ago and who's gone on to do some very interesting things that I think you'll be interested in hearing about. So with that, let me ask Ron Schumacher, our Vice President for Development and Public Affairs, to introduce our speaker.
Good morning. Great to see so many faculty and students in the room. Always exciting for us when we bring a speaker in of this magnitude to have so many individuals in the room. George Whitfield Jr. played for the Massillon Tigers football team from 1992 to 95. In 1996, he was recruited to play by Jim Tressel, then the head coach of Youngstown State University. He transferred to Tiffin University to play for Coach Bob Wolf and the Dragons for the following season. Between 97 and 2000, Whitfield became Tiffin University's all-time leading passer with 368 completions for 4,391 yards and 39 touchdowns. Upon graduation, George began to pursue a career in professional football. After receiving no offer straight out of college due to a separated shoulder, he decided to continue his training and attend workout sessions with numerous teams, as well as sign on as a grad assistant with the University of Iowa Hawkeyes. After a successful season with the Hawkeyes, George moved to San Diego to continue his training. In 2004, he established Whitfield Athletics, a specialized quarterback training academy based out of San Diego. George works mostly with middle and high school students based primarily in Southern California, training them in the ways of the quarterback position, helping them to enhance and develop their skills from the very basic levels to the complex levels, often using training methods used by NFL quarterbacks. During the summer of 2007, he was an intern under Cam Cameron, who at the time was the offensive coordinator for the San Diego Chargers. George worked with all the quarterbacks at camp, including a young standout named Phillip Rivers. Former collegiate standout and Cincinnati Bengals first-round draft pick Achilles Smith looked to Whitfield to help revitalize his slumping career. In 2011, Heisman Trophy winning quarterback and first overall selection Cam Newton began working with George Whitfield Jr. in preparation for the NFL draft. In 2012, Stanford University quarterback and NFL first overall selection Andrew Luck began working with George Whitfield Jr. in preparation for the NFL draft. In 2012, NFL veteran and free agent Donovan McNabb sought George's services to aid in off-season weight loss and to prepare for the upcoming season. Perhaps Whitfield's greatest accomplishment is reflected in the Heisman Trophy awarded to Johnny Manziel, whom he groomed in the summer of 2012. Manziel's rise from obscurity to becoming the first player in history to win the prestigious award as a freshman can in large part be credited to his work under Whitfield's guidance. George is currently the youngest quarterbacks coach in the nation. Please welcome to Tiffin University and to Good Morning World, George Whitfield Jr.
How we doing? I talk so much, I talk all the time, but this is like the biggest butterflies I've ever had. It's great to be here. It's like you just get to come home. And I've talked to some coaches and some guys I played with, and spoke to my parents and said, well, how do you feel about it? I said, oh my goodness, I'm a little bit nervous, to tell you the truth. Mr. Schumacher brought me down from Detroit last night. I flew in from San Diego to Detroit, and on the ride down, he's catching me up on everything, and then it didn't really hit. I think maybe 2 or 3 times. Are we in Tiffin yet? Because you got all these like big metropolitan areas on the way down from Toledo to Tiffin. I was like, are we in? No, not in Tiffin yet. And then I saw the sign. I thought, oh my God, there it is. Then we make a turn, we come down, I recognize, I said, that's the bridge. He goes, yep, the JFK bridge. And the school should be on the right, and I'm doing all this recall stuff, but then I thought that's the school, and you see building and building, and then we got over to the Heminger Center, and I almost teared up, to be quite honest. Like, it's not, I won't worry about saying that, but it was unbelievable. You walk in, I saw the giant dragon head, and guys playing basketball, and went up and saw you guys up in study hall, and I was like, this is how it's supposed to be. And I just kept, you marvel at it. You marvel at it. And I'm so just proud as a Dragon and an alum and an Ohioan. But it's special, and I told him, just like Coach Al and Coach Schumacher, I'm going to be a tourist today. I'm going to be taking pictures and seeing everything I can and all those sorts of deals. So, I'm glad I got a chance to come back and visit with you. And I kept thinking, what do you talk about? What do you talk about? There's no chalkboard up here. Normally when I'm talking, it's like some kind of dry erase board or some kind of film deal, and somebody asks you about footwork or throwing motion. It's like, wow, perfect. So this would be this and this would be that. But the biggest thing, I guess, would be to share, how does one go from, kind of running up and down Miami Avenue and playing football in the off season in Huggins parking lot to getting out to San Diego and winding up on ESPN and getting a chance to go to the draft and go to the Heisman and all those sorts of things. Mr. Schumacher did run down. He just ran, how I got out there. The bridge from landing in San Diego to training quarterbacks, it was just a matter of fork in the road moments. It just always just constantly fork in the road moments. And I'd always kind of look at him, pick up the phone and call your dad or go off your own instinct, and you think, you could go this direction, but damn, I'd love to see what this road is like. And I'd always bet on the road I wanted to go see. And then you got to go after it, and then that's kind of what happened. I'm in San Diego. I just finished playing arena football. I'm like in that 25, 26 range. And I knew football was now done, and it kind of felt good. And he did say, I left Tiffin. I went to University of Iowa as a coach. I'm 22. There were 9 guys on that team older than I was. There were 6 of them that were married. So I'm there, and I'm trying to, have a coaching posture and have a coaching tone. And I was doing pretty well, but then you get into practice and you're throwing balls, and I thought, I can beat that guy. Just the competitive part. And so then I found my way back to playing football. And I got a chance. I visited with my dad, mentors, and left Iowa to go back and play arena football. It was the greatest thing I ever done. And it wasn't like I was signing $1 million contracts, and we didn't, make all these hallmark moments on sports highlight shows. But I got a chance to let the athlete in me run its way out. And I had to. And I played in all these towns: Louisville and Memphis, and Shreveport, in Chicago, in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And it helped because my sister would call, on a random day in March. She said, how you doing? I said, shoot, I'm a football player. That's my job today as a football player. I'm getting ready for this Las Vegas arena team. She said, well, good, keep going at it. That was the best feeling to tell her, as opposed to, well, I'm doing well, I don't really want to be in this position, but I guess it'll turn around. And no, I was doing exactly what I wanted. Now, to the max of it and all that other type of thing, I didn't really worry about what the outcome was going to be. I was doing exactly what I wanted. So once football was done, I felt now I can coach or do whatever. I don't have that, that kind of weighing on me anymore. So now I'm in San Diego, and I'm trying, just to surf, and it wasn't working. So I broke my nose. I broke my nose the first time out. Like, no one teaches you how to like get that big board like past the waves, and so you're trying to like peek and watch like other surfers, and then a wave hit and the board came back. I just got popped and then the blood on the thing. I was like, this isn't going how I thought it was supposed to. So now, so I'm hanging. First thought now that I'm no longer a player, got that done. In San Diego, what do you want to do next? I want to study law. I want to go to law school. I thought at this age I'd be, you know, trying cases and helping people out or helping out corporations. So I started studying. I had a buddy approach me. He said, there's a husband and wife couple who wants to start a beer company. So it's called Green Flash Beer. I said, I don't know anything about that. I mean, I learned a little bit at Tiffin about beer. I don't know anything about like the beer company world or anything. And he said, no, they just want you to market it. They're just looking for somebody to go downtown in San Diego and help, you know, put a button-down shirt on. I said, yeah, I can do that. They said, get a resume. That easy. So I sat down, and the resume just said, football. Like, just change the name of the towns. That's pretty much what it was. I gave it to him. The lady called back a couple days later, and she said, hey, we got your resume, but we have a different idea. We're not going to really use you for marketing, like at all. I said, I get it. She said, but my son, who's a fourth grader, took your resume, sat down at the computer, and he went over each line of your resume. And he found like a little article here online, a little article there. And by the time he got done, he had put a Post-it note on there for his parents. Could I have him as a QB coach? And left it on the kitchen counter and went to school. And when she came back from work, she sat down with her husband, who had never played football and wanted to coach his son's team, and thought, this should be good. Let's bring him. So she called. She said, would you like to come up and work with our family and help Mikey for $40? I was like, yeah, I mean, the money wasn't even that big a deal, but somebody was asking me to help coach like their kid. And I'm like, yeah, because all I was going to do is read this boring 2 chapters of like this pre-test thing. We can wait for that later. I was up there. So I went, and he was so short, I got down on a knee just so we could have eye contact. So I got down, and we're talking, and you know, I laugh today, and he does too. The first workout was 90 minutes. I didn't let him really touch the football. We didn't throw a single pass. It was more like ABCs of going into the huddle. This is the huddle. You got to understand why this is so important. So I grabbed Dad. I said, Dad, put the camera down for a second. Mom, you come over here. I put them side by side. I'd stand next to Dad like a choir so we could all be in the huddle. I'd say, Mikey, walk out. When you walk back in, I want you to say, eyes up. We'll all look at you. So he did that, and we started going over it. And this is why your center is so important. This is why your receivers, you have to look at and make sure they're in the right spot. It went great. I drove home, called my mom and Dad. I said, man, I just got a chance to coach a kid in one-on-one. And it sounds funny because 3 years removed, I was at Iowa. And on that one team, there was 14 NFL players. And this was such a much bigger deal that I just helped the fourth grader. 4 or 5 days later, Mrs. Hinckley called back. Could you come back up? Yeah. Then it wound up being once a week, 2 times a week, 3 times a week. And I wasn't looking at it like I was a quarterback coach. I'm working with this family all through June, all through July, all through August. I'm just working with Mikey. Just with Mikey. Still studying, still trying to break my nose surfing. And once the fall hit, every weekend he'd go play. I got a call from a random number. Hey, Coach, this is Mr. Green. We just played Mikey Hinckley's team. We have a son we'd like you to train. Another guy would call. Coach, we just coached against your pupil. This rascal threw like 8 completions today. We would like to bring our 2 quarterbacks out when you guys work out. And by Thanksgiving of that year, I had like 17 young guys to work with. And now you're getting into that deal where, uh-oh, we might be able to do this for like a little bit. So I remember calling my dad, and I thought, he said, how's the LSAT going. So I'm like, how are we with that? And I said, well, I'm sure it's going good. I mean, I'm not with it right now, but I'm sure it's going good. And I told him what I was doing, and he encouraged me to go after it. So I did start to go after it, and I had a blast, because there's just nothing like it when you're with someone who wants to do something very badly, and you can kind of see it from their perspective, either directly or indirectly, but you can help them turn a light on. So if they were, struggling throwing the ball, and you go through whatever method you go through, so you walk them through it, you talk them through it, you try this drill or that drill, all of a sudden, they went from being insecure about it and struggling, to all of a sudden they think, and then the ball comes out the way you both wanted it to come out, and they go, and it's like the biggest, like their chest puffs up, and you got a kid that's 5 foot who's now like 7 foot because they just knocked out something. They like walk off the field differently than they walk on the field. And I thought, my goodness. Then you see like it happen to big guys. The first big time athlete I ever worked with was Ben Roethlisberger. Had a chance to work with Ben in September 2010. It would happen the exact same way. That light bulb moment would go off, and then every single time that happens, you're like, that's why I'm out here. And every year we get opportunities to go back and coach on a team or go for a team and things of that sort. And I always kind of like dance with it. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I like being on the field with like 1 or 2 guys. I like being on the field with like maybe 4 kids or this 5th grader or this like sophomore. We're not getting ready to win games. My job is to improve them so they can take the skill set and go win games. And then it got to a point where you realize we're not really coaching mechanics and quarterbacks. And I had a question asked me about that at the draft one year. And I said, well, I'm not really training like mechanics. We're really training confidence. Like when it boils down to it. It isn't, the world of football, there's 50 different guys you can bring in here. They throw 50 different ways, and they all figure out ways to get it done. There's ways you can help them, and there's ways you can improve things, but it's about the confidence. Like, it really doesn't matter what walk of life you're in. It's hard to defeat someone, or it's hard to imagine someone not succeeding if they come in there already emboldened and with the knowledge or belief that I can. Like, it's the biggest thing. And that's why I absolutely love getting to do this. We get to help it out with one particular sport, with one particular position in that sport, and then go from there. So what I found out was, I said, that's really what this is. It's just coded in drills and this and that. And like people saw us out there a couple of years ago, we started putting quarterbacks in the sand. And like, oh man, that's crazy out there now. I said, yeah. But they thought I was getting crazy, but we had so many lanky, tall kids who didn't have great footwork, or their legs weren't that strong. And the sand is out there, it's natural, it's already a tough challenge, it's already unstable, and so we just started kind of bringing the guys out there, it's change of pace, and you already got it. And then that started helping. And then I remember one day I'm watching the water, like, during a break or something. And because a lot of different things happen. If you glance out there, you might see dolphins. So if you got 5 quarterbacks going, all 5 little guys get distracted and they go like that. Little guys don't really get distracted by a bikini, but they do get distracted by like 12 fins going past them. So I saw a surfer lost his board, and that board must have went like 50 yards. And I glanced at me, and the kid's like, man, that's gotta suck. Because he's got to wade through the water. It's like knee deep. He's going to get his board. He could have came out of the water and went down the beach, but he didn't. He's wading. And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, man, that's got to be tough. That's got to be tough. That's got to be pretty tough. And I look back at our guys, and then they're not paying attention to me, and I thought, if it's that tough to wade and walk through the water, it's got to be even tougher to drop back through it. So we'll have to check that out. So as soon as those guys left, I went out there in the water like knee deep, and I started dropping back in the water. It was tough. I went down like the first time I tried to do it, then I got back up. I'm like, man, my base is too narrow. That's why I went down. Then I started grabbing our older guys and putting them out there. then we started doing it and started helping, and then people like from the outside said, "Oh, you guys are just getting creative. You're just coming up with all kinds of things." But it was like a need and a purpose, and there was an inspiration for it. It wasn't just, just I'm going to flip coins and go after it. So we started putting kids in the ocean, started putting them in the sand. But I always kind of thought you got to go outside the box sometimes to come back and affect what you do, and how you do it. I never wanted to be stagnant, stale, and learned a lot of that from Dr. Watts. I remember sitting in her classes here in Tiffin, and I always told people the thing about Tiffin, it left you with a chip on your shoulder. Just to segue back to kind of coming up, I was at Youngstown State. You're this championship program, and there's rings and trophies, and you got Coach Trussell, is like Senator Trussell, and the stadium's full, and campus is bustling, and all these things, and then, do some fork in the road moments. I wound up here at Tiffin. Well, the changes weren't always as just drastic on the field, they were drastic in the class too. Youngstown, you got 300 kids in class, and you want to catch up on a little rest, you could, you know what I mean? It wasn't like it was going to be that big a deal because it's hard to find you. Here, we're up here in the second floor. I don't even know remember what this new building is over here. What's the building? Frank's Hall. We're upstairs. Schedule says you got Dr. Watts. I'm like, all right, that'll work. So get up there, and then there's only like 8 people in class. And we face each other. and like she's asking you to recall what you read in the discussion. Oh boy, like there will never be rest in this class. I mean, not without penalty. But that helped. That helped with like the diligence. That helped, and certainly coming out of Tiffin, it gave you like this chip on your shoulder to lead. And it carries out right now in training, like the confidence of the kids in this class, the confidence in that classroom. You just got to be confident. Like the path you go down has to be just as concrete and bolted down as possible. There are 3 things that I've been watching. So it's really been like a Peter Pan type of thing this last, I'd probably say 4 years. Just to tell you, like just this week, I just talked to Coach Harbaugh 2 days ago. I just watched the Monday night football game. The Colts came to San Diego, so I went down to go see Andrew Luck, and I wind up in like a production truck watching the Monday night game with like Ray Lewis. He's sitting like on the opposite side of the table, and he's all fiery and excitable, and oh, there we go, and he's doing all this type of stuff, and he's pointing stuff out to you, and like he's coaching you. And a few days before that, I'm at Ole Miss. Last weekend, I went down there to go watch Johnny Manziel play. So you find yourself, and you're on the field, and you're watching, you're trying to watch the kid play, and he scores a touchdown, and he comes over, and he says something to a couple teammates, and he goes, "Hey, that was a drill that first day in San Diego. Remember you thought I wouldn't get it?" I was like, "I thought you'd get it." He goes, "I know you did." And he goes on down. So you get a chance to see all those things, but you see a lot of personalities, and you meet a lot of guys, and people, and there's a line that runs through all of them. Every single one of those people believe in what they're doing, and they all verify it only to themselves that that's how they got it done. And I found there's really like three kinds of inspiration, and I've seen this kind of go different ways. One of those deals is learning from somebody else or watching somebody else's circumstance. It didn't really happen to you, but are you observant enough to take it in? I got a chance to meet Nick Saban a couple years back. We're sitting upstairs at Alabama's football office, and I'm asking him all these questions. Not one of them really a football question. This is Nick Saban. And he told me this story about when he was younger. He's like 13, he's fishing. He's on some fishing trip at some lake. Him and his buddy are catching fish. He keeps catching fish like this big. His buddy keeps catching fish like this big. But his buddy keeps throwing his fish back in the water. So a little time later, Coach Saban says he caught a fish. And he said, man, I can put that thing in my pocket. So I did. He said he put it right in his bucket, caught one. He said his buddy kept catching these bigger fish. He said he'd look at it, said, nah, and he'd throw it back. And he said he was quiet for the first hour. He said the second hour he kept seeing it. He said, why do you keep throwing these fish back in the water? And his buddy said, I only have a 6-inch frying pan. If you think about that. He was throwing all these fish that he felt were too big for his frying pan that he had at home. He was throwing them back in the water. He was giving up on them. He said, nah, I can't cook that. And he'd throw it back in there. I heard that story as it was coming out of his mouth, and then the ending, I was knocked out. And I looked at Coach. And I said, as a 13-year-old, what did you think then? He said, find something else to cook with. Like that hit me. And I'm thinking, hell, I could walk. Like that's the greatest thing. And I've been around him in all these different moments, and now I see games. He's coached against Cam Newton, and Cam beat him, and I talked to him after the game, and he coached against Manziel, but all that football and X's and O's, like that was one of the strongest anecdotes I'd ever heard. His buddy was willing to throw opportunities back because that frying pan, or his mindset, was too small to take it on or to accept like the challenge. And that just startled me. And I kept thinking, so that's what it is about. And they're big on that down there. They're the #1 team in the country for I don't know how many years, undisputed. Every time you go somewhere, their stadium breaks their crowd record. All the networks there to watch. If you beat a team and you don't beat them up, it's an average win. If somebody gets close to you, there's almost an upset. Like it's really strange listening to, I call those guys the Roman Army, Alabama. It's strange to look at from their perspective. It's strange. But their leader and Coach Saban, when he gave me this fishing story, I thought, I'm hanging on to that. His buddy was throwing fish back, purely for the reason he only at home. He just wouldn't adjust what he was cooking with. So that was one. So Coach Saban taught me that. You can learn the mindset through watching somebody else, rightly or wrongly. Inspirational. I can pick that up. He said, if you're sharp enough, and he said he was, he said, I picked that up. You can pick that up. Sometimes you react. Sometimes you react. I had another chance to hear from some other coaches. And Coach Carroll taught me about a gentleman in New Jersey, Pete Carroll. Used to be at USC. You guys know him at the Seahawks. And I'm sitting in this back green room at the combine, just hanging. And he's like a real loose, kind of chilled out guy. He was just talking to some reporter about some Rolling Stones concert he went to. And then I'm sitting there talking with him. And we get a chance to kind of grab and go about a couple of things. And I said, tell me about inspiration. Tell me about, the whole urge of getting up and getting going. And he said, sometimes you just got to flat recognize it. He said, it's going to come out of nowhere. So with Coach Saban's story, it was about watching other people. Coach Carroll was telling me about something impacting you directly. He said there was a kid in his class growing up in high school. I think he's from like New Jersey or something. He said that guy was always average, super average. Like even dogged it in school. The barely grades, barely did work. And people just put that kind of moniker on him. Time's ticking on this guy. He'll be doing whatever soon. Like he's not going to go this direction. And that guy bought that for a long time. Then he said they had to take the SAT. Their class took the SAT, and this guy's in Pete Carroll's class. The SAT scores came back, and the scores for this 2.0 student were like astronomical. The guy got scored like the second highest SAT score in the building. Like he's a junior in high school. Everybody caught wind of that. And all of a sudden, the guy that straightens up has this incredible epiphany about, I am smart. Well, what am I doing? I need to get serious. I'm not going to that community college. I'm going to go to an Ivy League school. And he, all of a sudden, like, he's on fire. Finishes out last 3 semesters of high school, 4.0 from 2.0, like legit way. Goes out 4.0, gets into an Ivy League school, tears it up, becomes president of their law review, goes all the way through and does all these things, goes on to become a CEO of a company he starts. On fire. Fortune 500 that company gets into in 5 years. 7 years after college, he comes home, big old mansion somewhere like in upstate New York, gets a letter in the mail. It's from the SAT company. He opens up the letter, simply said, "We regret to inform you a mistake was made your junior year of high school. This is a 0.05 percentile situation. We just wanted to rectify it for your own records. That was not the score you really had." See, there were 2 guys in his school with the same name. He got the other score. His score would have barely qualified him actually to go to that junior college, that community college. But the result came back and he was told it was up here. So what did he do? His whole mindset changed. Whew. I've been listening. And he took off. Now the irony is, it was within him anyway. Because it's still, you gotta do more than just walk into an Ivy League school to go through there and graduate. You got to do more than just show up to work to push a company you started into the Fortune 500. Like, he made some monumental, accomplishments. All because he thought, at that moment, he had it all wrong, and now he had a chance to see it. And I thought, what an awesome story. And I said, if I'm him, I wouldn't even, I'd frame the letter. I don't know what I'd do with the letter. It wouldn't affect me one bit. And Coach Carroll said he did. He framed it, put it in his office, right next to his Ivy League degree, and kept right on moving. And I thought, what a cool story. Imagine what would have happened if the SAT company would have actually got that right. If they would have actually sent him the average score he got. What would his life path be? He got impacted from out of nowhere. Just a random circumstance in his path. It wasn't like anyone sat him down and said, you can be and you should be and you just got to dig deep and all that type of stuff. He was pretty cool with going to the community college. And then he gets impacted. He gets hit. Boom, right out of nowhere. So, with Coach Saban teaching me about observing someone else and sometimes just taking from what they're going through. And then here's Pete Carroll saying, sometimes you don't really have it. I mean, you always have a choice, but you don't really know when it's coming. He saw that score, picked up on it, and thought, what? I'm not going to that community college. I'm going to Ivy League. And he went and knocked it out. Great success. And I've found on the football field, and just from what I'm doing, sometimes you got guys that hotwire their own situation. Like they take it upon themselves from the very beginning. And with the little guys and the older guys, we always say the same thing. Make a decision. Make a decision. Decide this is where you're going to go. Decide it's going to go this way. A lot of times with quarterbacks, I'm not afraid to get the camera, it's brainwashing. It's like carefully engineered brainwashing. So if you have a 12-year-old and I'm on the field with him, I'm very careful how I go through the drills and through our time together. If he misses 10 balls in a row, I immediately say, those 10 don't matter. Because the footwork you're doing underneath those throws are right. Don't sweat that. You can always get that back. If they miss a drill or go and totally mess something up, say it's all right. The good thing is, we're not getting ready for the NFL. You're just getting ready for the 6th grade. Like, the experience, every single time these guys that come off the field, I have to make sure their chin is up, their chest is up, and that they know that they can do this. It's just brainwashing. But from a standpoint, because when they get out there on the football field, that's really all they have. Yep, I know what I'm supposed to do. I know my plays. I know my teammates. But there's a lot of insecurity and vulnerability in going out and trying to compete, especially play at this position. And if nothing else, I just want to embolden these guys with all of the I can. Forget the I know, it's the I can. It's just brainwashing. I only want them to see one outcome, that's it. And coaches all the time say, oh, visualize and see the game the night before, see it, see it, see it. I remember there's times when I was younger, some of those visualizations would be like, whew, you wake up. I fumbled on that one. That wasn't good at all. And I'd go back and tell my guys, say, listen, since it's your vision, be the director of that vision and only visualize every play going perfectly. Will it? Probably not. But at least you played it up here with all types of confidence. I only want them to see one outcome. It's just brainwashing. You want them 6'8". I want those 5th graders walking and talking and feeling like you want them feeling 6'8" every single time. So the last type of inspiration I would say that we should react to, and sometimes you just do it on your own, and it's just a hot wire. 2 years ago, I'm in San Diego, and we had a mom call pretty much through the winter time. And now we kind of get some calls that come in about work with my son or nephew or our quarterback. There's a lady from Texas, very nice lady, and she kept calling and she said, hey, my son's a freshman at a college down here, and we send him out and work with you. And we were working with guys at the draft, and I was leaving sometimes to go on other projects, and I'd come home, and I got a buddy that works with me on handling like all the organization. I said, hey James, see when that young guy can come out. Why not? Bring him out. So sure enough, the kid comes on out. He comes out. We're in La Jolla. I got 2 other guys on the field. One's Pete Thomas. He plays at North Carolina State now. The other one's Logan Thomas. He plays at Virginia Tech now. 2 big dudes, right? They're both almost 6'6". And those guys I had already been working with. This is like their 3rd or 4th time coming down to San Diego. So now I got this young guy. I don't know what he looks like. I hadn't even talked to him on the phone, which is rare. It just kind of happened fast. He shows up on the field and he walks up to me, and he's got all this maroon on. He walks up, he goes, Coach, and he introduces himself to me. I'm Johnny. I said, Johnny, good to meet you, buddy. How's it going? First time to California, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We do all that talking. And he says, I just want you to know, I'm so glad to be out here. Whatever it is you ask me to do, I'm going to get it done. I said, no, I believe you. I said, we'll be up here in a little bit. And I go to take a step and walk around him. He sidesteps me and he blocks me. He goes, I don't think you're hearing me. When you and I get done out here, I'm going to go back and do great things. He said, I just can't get my football off to do what the other guys back at my school do with theirs. If we all throw the same target, their ball goes, mine doesn't always go. You take that away, I'm head and shoulders the best guy on this team. I said, I like the confidence. I said, perfect. I go to step the other way. He steps right in front of me again. And now he's kind of got like his hands on my arms. And he goes, I'm dead serious. He said, I don't want to see Disney World out here. I don't want to see SeaWorld out here. He said, if you say we're going to go tomorrow at 6 a.m., we go at 6 a.m. I said, nope, I got you. I said, now, am I going to have to run you over? Because I already tried to juke you twice. And he goes, nope. And he stepped out of the way, and then I went on. That kid was Johnny Manziel. He is 6 foot, and at the time, he's probably 190 pounds. Just didn't seem all that overwhelming. We had 2 guys that were 6'6" out there, and the very first day, it's time to work with them, and then Johnny's like the next workout, and he goes, hey, I want to go with them. I said, I get it, but you and I are going to go at this time, and I'm going to go with those guys. And I said, no, I want to work with them. I said, well, you're working on different things than they are. No, I'll work in the things they're working on. I want to be around them. I've seen them on TV. I want to work around them. So I went and talked to the 2 guys. They said, we don't have any problem with that. And so we get training, and we get rolling. So then you got 3 guys out there. It wasn't that big of a deal, but with the college kids, there's so much more intricate stuff you got to do. Sometimes you got to separate 2 horses here, 1 horse here, so they can have kind of their time to go. Well, we're probably an hour into the first day, and one of the interns kind of nudges me. And I had just corrected the quarterback at Virginia Tech. And he nudges me, and he goes, look over your shoulder. And I look back, and 10 yards behind me, Johnny is doing the very things that I just corrected the kid from Virginia Tech to do. He's back there on his own. No way, he didn't think anybody's watching. And he's going through the mechanics of the very thing, like he's working at it. Then we have photographers sometimes to train. Because a still photo, we video things, but sometimes a still photo, like, it tells you, well, I didn't know his arm was there because the video goes so fast. One of those photos, and then a bunch of them start showing behind the quarterbacks and behind the drill is this kid. He's kneeling down, and you can look at his eyes. His eyes are studying the feet of whoever was up. Like he was almost like kind of like a madman in that way. Practice would be over. We'd all leave. He would leave, and then he'd double back when he didn't think anybody was there, and he'd come back and do it on his own. He leaves San Diego in May. He goes back to Texas A&M. And then in July, he's still a 3rd stringer. He came out after spring football. He was a 3rd stringer. They had 2 other guys they really liked, and they just graduated a guy. So the year before, he was a 4th stringer. He's only 3rd by default. We talk. I keep up with all the guys. You just want to know how they're doing. Sometimes they're just giving you, movie ideas. Don't see this movie. It's terrible. Sometimes they got a question about, something with their girlfriend. And a lot of times it is quarterback talk. He gets into training camp and he calls the very first day of training camp. It's big for all those guys. They put in so much work, and you talk to them and say, how you doing? Everything's good? He goes, yeah. Tomorrow we go. I said, all right, tomorrow we go. I said, just take it one deal at a time and just play it out from there. He goes, deal. He calls back 3 days later. Hey, I just wanted to tell you, I'm in the 2nd huddle now. I'm in the 2nd huddle. I said, are you surprised by that? I think the question caught him off guard. He goes, no, I'm not surprised by it. So he gets off, he goes back, and then 5 days after that call, coach is rotating in with the starters now. This is Texas A&M. Coach is rotating in with the starters. They're rotating me in. He goes some, I go some. He goes some, I go some. He's like, I'm right there. I said, good. You surprised by this? No. I call you back. I said, good. Call me when you get this thing. He said, okay. He calls, probably now it's a week before their first game. Last day of training camp. And on ESPN, I'm watching the ticker. Freshman Johnny Manziel to start at Texas A&M. And the phone rings, I'm watching. And I'm like, Bobby, damn. Now here I am surprised, but I ain't gonna let him know that. I'm shocked. So he calls and he goes, I got it. And they go, yep, I saw it. And he hung up the phone. That was the end of that call. He goes on a run through that deal last year, and he ends up as the Heisman Trophy winner. And for some of you, for playing, even you guys, I don't know if you can fathom the stretch to go from one spring as the 3rd stringer and then spin it forward 7 months later and you're the heavyweight champ. I call him a heavyweight champ. That's basically what the Heisman Trophy is. It's just one thing to go from 3rd string to 2nd. That's a jump. 3rd to starter. That is a jump. Then to take that team on a run. First game he played against was Florida. LSU was his 4th game. Freshman, 18. Then you wind up in in the Heisman Trophy deal. All the way through. But the whole time, even though I'm shocked by it, I'm like, I can't believe this thing. I had to keep the same attitude that I had just shared earlier. Can't be surprised. Not if you've been planning for this. You can't be surprised by it. Not if you already set your course to get there, and then you get there, you can't look around and be like, we got here. Didn't you set your course for that? Does that make sense? The whole way through. Grinds, goes, and it's a wild story. I told Mr. Schumacher last night. He calls, now he's won the Heisman Trophy, and he's done it. He hot-wired his situation. This wasn't a deal where he watched somebody else kind of do something and was kind of inspired by it. It wasn't a deal where, like Pete Carroll's classmate, the SAT score told him he was smart, so he reacted that way. This kid came out and said, that's where I'm going. Can you just give me enough tools just to get there? But I am going there one way or the other. Like he hot-wired it. Weeks after the Heisman Trophy, and we talk with these kids all day long, he calls, Katy Perry just texted me. Like I said, man, go back to class. Katy Perry texted me. I just got a call from LeBron. Another weeks after that, Coach, the Duck Dynasty guys are in town. Duck Dynasty, which I had never watched. I had heard about. Now I had to go back and watch them just so I could, the next time he calls, not be late on it. I'm like, oh yeah. And I had all the names written down on something by the TV in case he called. Oh yeah, Willie, how's Willie doing? So then the Jonas Brothers called about going on spring break and to Rio, and they got, so all these things kept happening. But here's a kid from tiny Texas, like 6,000. No school in Texas really wanted him. A&M gave his only scholarship offer to stay in state. Gets there, he's antsy, he's unsettled. This ain't enough. Seeks out some help, takes it back with him. That ain't enough. Being better wasn't enough. Third to second, yeah. Second to starter, I already told you I was better than the rest of these dudes in this team. Go 10-2, which they did, and have this incredible bowl win. I was thinking national championship. I said, you were? He was like, yeah. We beat those two teams. I'm like, golly. He never thinks measured. It's always outsized. And it should be, quite frankly, as long as you can build up the diligence behind it. But that is by far one of the biggest things I got from the staff here at Tiffin. And it wasn't even my football coaches. In fact, I got more off-season impact and training because I went with his team 2 years and just inspiration from Coach Allen. Football, we had our off-season, but baseball was doing it right in the middle of winter. He let me come in and tag along in Gilmore and try and keep up with their off-season training drills. Then I watch how he was as pitchers, and you watch his demeanor. And I told you about Dr. Watts. No, you're not going to get much rest in the class, but we learn an awful lot just in terms of the approach. And just being here in this small town, you just develop this chip on your shoulder. I'm going to take all the tools I got out of here, and they're going to go with me for the rest of this path. Just that whole dragon mentality. Get a chance to talk to you guys later about what it looked like out here 12 years ago. It's different. But I never let that go. Always just set your own course. But when people wonder what is happening, what are you doing in San Diego? If it didn't sound so hokey, and it didn't, come off as so, I don't know, hippie-ish, I would say we're just developing confidence, we're training confidence. We're engineering confidence. That's really truly what it is. With it, whether you get it from someone else or it happens to you and you react to it or you hardwire it yourself, not too many things you're going to be able to go into and not come out of. And a lot of that was rooted right here in, in Tiffin. And I loved it here, and I only be here, this is only my second time since I graduated, but like I told you, I was up since 5:30, walking, pacing, what are you gonna say, I'm on College Game Day tomorrow on ESPN. I'll sleep like a baby. You're just talking quarterback. You ain't like you're coming back and talking to people that helped you get there. So, with that, I just want to say thank you. Just for those of you that were there directly, for those of you that impacted Tiffin, which impacted me, for you guys that are coming up, it's just inspiring. Like the only, I played with Jeremy here, and we had a chance to talk, and you always kind of go back and forth about, the best moments wasn't this game we won, and this play and that play. It was in the locker room, pre-practice. Someone's the comedian, everybody else the audience. Or the ride home on the bus from some win. There's a boy band back there, there's a rap group up front, there's comedians, like that type of deal is what's special. But I thought you guys made an incredible decision coming here. And I've talked to him over the last 2 years on the phone, and I just met Coach Goff this morning, but what an incredible man and leader. And Jeremy and I were here when the program was much younger and it was starting out. And I'm glad. I wouldn't change it. I mean, this is unbelievable, but we learned an awful lot through that experience, which put us in these positions. So you guys take from the position you're in and go forward from that standpoint. Does that make sense? So I thank you. I don't really know, Mr. Schumacher, what I'm supposed to do next.
You're open for questions.
Perfect. I think anybody has got questions on quarterbacks though. Is there a question? Yes, sir.
Whatever happened to Michael, the kid you worked with?
Oh, Michael. So now I'm gonna get all teared up about this. So Michael was a fourth grader, first young guy we've ever worked with. Today he's a freshman at Northwestern University in Chicago. So he went in, and the coaches said, "Not that fast to play quarterback. We're going to let you play there, and you're going to hold for extra points and field goals, and help our GPA." He finished like a 4.0 in high school. So now I'm a Wildcats fan of Northwestern. That's where he is. It sounds old to go from fourth grade to freshman in college, but that's where he is now.
George, last night you talked about your dad. Sounded like he was a huge influence in your life. And every time you got to that fork, he would ask you a question.
Right.
What did he ask you?
So what he's referring to, I talk to my parents, probably a little nerdy. I talk to my mom or dad, one of those two every day. One of those two is going to get a call from me, and it could be just, it could be something, but I'm going to run something past one of those two. Like, they know me the best, and I think they're very smart people. So in those fork in the road moments Mr. Schumacher was talking about, my dad would always say, "Are you going to go all in?" Like, don't just head down a path with the idea that you're going to make a U-turn and come back at it. Like, if you're going to go, study it, look at it, then are you going to go all in? And some of those deals are like an uphill deal, and some of them are just like long and windy, and they don't seem like it's just a quick, straight shot to get there. But if that's what you want to go do, you got to go all in. And that's really what helped me, like, leave Iowa, leaving the Iowa Hawkeyes at 22. You're going to be a full-time coach at 24, and you're kind of all in there, and that all looked great. That wasn't where my heart wanted to be, though. I just didn't want to be a coach. Not at that age, not right that moment. So I gambled, and then it's one thing to gamble, it's another thing to go all in, like my dad was saying, and then I just took it with that route. But that was huge advice for me. And then I just carried that mentality the whole way through. That's a very clean situation, but my heart says go this way. I'm going to go this way. But now I'm just going to go in 100%, so you just make the decision. I'm gonna get there now. I just gotta figure out how to get there. But that's gonna be my new route. That's what he shared. Yes, sir.
How do you think Johnny Manziel looks in brown and orange?
I think he looked great. I will tell you this. I went down and I watched Johnny play against Alabama. You know, the atmosphere was like the freaking Super Bowl. So it's pregame, and there's all kinds of polos on the sideline and our coach, and they're all Scott. 6 of those guys are from the Browns. And I peek over, and I'm messing with them. We're on the Alabama sideline, but we're watching Johnny. And I said, man, a lot of good Alabama players here, huh? 2 or 3 of those guys go, yep, they all got. There's some big guys out here, and they go, oh yeah, there's some big guys. And the one guy stepped up and goes, well, we're not really looking at those kids wearing crimson, and the guy we're watching isn't the biggest guy out here. And I kind of got an idea. They were watching number 2. I think he looked great, and I know Brandon, we work, well together, but, the nature of the beast is, this program is trying to get going and trying to, get off the ground. They're going to go look for, somebody to help him get that done. But he will hit, when he does, I don't know if it's this year or next year, but, he will be like must-see TV. He's going to hit the ground running. And he's a grinder. Like, a lot of people see him. I don't know if you guys really know much about Johnny Manziel. Most of you probably know, like, what happens, like, on the those magazines, the U.S. Weekly and all the other ones. What are those called? And People. Yeah, he's wound up in People and for dating this country music singer, and he's at this party, and he stayed with Drake. This guy, the week before his 2-a-days, this summer, spent a week with Drake in Toronto. Stayed in his crib. It was LeBron, Drake, and Kyrie Irving, and then Johnny Manziel. And he'd go in the morning with those guys, those 2 basketball players, he'd go and watch them train. And he'd watching them shoot in the mornings in Toronto. They had a gym. He's watching them work out. In the evenings, they all go to the studio, and he's sitting behind the glass, and he's watching Drake finish his album. And he said, I can't, he's calling, and this, that, and the other. And I'm excited because they're all, very accomplished now. They're rock stars in what they do. And it's not like, I didn't really have too many problems with it because it's not like they're going to be out in the town and come back home staggering every night. They're all professionals. LeBron's getting ready for a season. Kyrie's getting ready for a season. Drake is trying to finish up a big project. And Johnny's like pulling in everything he can from them. And he said they were going very, very hard on him about, you got to be this, you got to be that. But that's like his deal. And he came right back, hit the ground running. And they only lost to the number 1 team by 7. But if he's in Cleveland, I know I'll be back in Ohio a lot more. I know that.